My name is Sanjeev Welling, CEO and co-founder of Avira Digital. Avira Digital is a digital transformation company specializing in medical planning and strategy digitization. So, welcome to the Avira Digital podcast series, which focuses on redefining the medical affairs and evidence management, digitization, and AI. Today, we have Shurjeel Choudhri, Senior Vice President and Head of Medical Affairs at Bayer. He has been working with Bayer over 20 years. Let's hear more from Shurjeel. Shurjeel, why don't you introduce yourself and would like to hear your journey in medical
Sure.
affairs and scientific affairs?
Thanks, Sanjeev. As you've mentioned, I've been with Bayer actually over 25 years now. I started actually in the US medical department, and then spent some time with global development. And for the last 16 years or so, I've been head of medical and scientific affairs for Bayer Canada. It has been quite the journey. We've really seen over that time how medical affairs has gone from being a support function to really being a very strategic partner for the business. And of course, the technology we use has changed a lot. So I'm looking forward to having this discussion and discussing just how things have changed and what might happen in the future.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So, just a thought, since you have gone through 25 years of this medical scientific journey, how do you see the medical affairs functions adopting this expanded role within as a strategic partner within the pharmaceutical ecosystem? How do you see that function is adopting right now?
Yeah, I think if we think back, medical affairs used to be often not much more than just some medical scientific liaisons in the field. When I started at Bayer Canada, for example, we had an MSL team, but we had very few people in head office. What has really changed is because we are now strategic partners, we play an active role in the development of the strategy. We have the medical strategy, but we really contribute to the overall strategic planning. That has completely changed both the role of medical, but also how much accountability we have, the skill set that is needed. There have been new roles created in medical affairs to just address some of the needs that the business has. Analytics, for example, there was a time when only the commercial operations colleagues really looked at the data from the CRM, but now we have a medical CRM and we have a wealth of data coming in from our MSLs. And we need to be able to look at it and act upon it. We have tools for collecting insights that didn't used to exist before. It was a lot of it was just manual. People would document things and then come back and share. And now we have tools that allow us to do that. I think the other really important trend has been as we've moved from products that used to be more for primary care to specialty products, there's been a shift from what sales used to do to what medical does best, which is to share new data. And for a lot of specialty products, the thought leaders are interested in new data. What's new? Because most of it is not in the label, and only medical can then answer those questions. What I've also noticed, and I'm sure you've noticed, is that ratio of sales to MSL, sales to medical, has continued to shrink because there is this need for additional medical resource for, in particular, specialty products in oncology and other specialty areas, just to address this need that our physicians have.
Thank you so much. No, that's true. And see, as we can look back, pharma industry always go through the transitions and the cycles are driven by some innovations or maybe a product life cycle or big blockbuster drugs coming or a product coming to a specialty, as you mentioned. See innovations coming with a rapid growth of data and advancement in AI recently. I just wanted to take your perspective. How do you see this innovation transforming? And I'm just using as an example, integrated evidence management and how it is impacting the overall care specializations.
I think there are multiple impacts of the technology that we have. So I'll talk about how it's helping us better engage with our thought leaders. And then we can talk about evidence generation as well. The most important way that this is really changing how we interact with physicians is that we have more visibility now on the data that they consume. As we implement our omni-channel strategies, we're trying to really personalize the information we provide based on the thought leader needs, based on the HCP needs.
Mhm.
And in the past, we had no way of knowing if you were meeting their need. When I started, it used to be mostly paper, and you had no idea. Did they read it? Was it useful? Did it go straight into their trash? Now we get much more visibility in terms of what is the type of content that the physicians actually want, what are they interested in, and then we can very much try to personalize and deliver the information that they're really looking for. So that is a very big change compared to before. It brings with it the need for competencies, new tools, new analytical skills. What has really changed is that, especially with some of these new AI tools and algorithms, we can collect much more data from the EMR than we could in the past. In the past, you were really limited to the structured data that sat within the medical record. And now we have tools that can really pull all of the unstructured data and make it structured so we can analyze it. And most of the medical chart is unstructured. All the diagnostic reports, all the doctor's notes. So we are getting actually a much more clear picture of what's happening with the patients, and it can be done fast. We used to look at unstructured data in the past by having nurses or other healthcare professionals manually look through the electronic medical record or the patient chart.
Mhm.
And now these new tools can really go through this very fast, much more cheaply. It allows us to do evidence generation at speed, much closer to real time than was possible
Absolutely.
before. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I think it's an important point you bring it up. Unstructured and structured data and AI algorithms, as you
Mhm.
said, can analyze a vast amount of data, structured, unstructured, to uncover the trends, patterns, correlationships, evidences, and
Exactly.
and may not be even apparent to the human analytics way of doing it, right? While we are doing this, right, what are the key challenges in an organizations or with real data world platforms in medical affairs, and how can they be addressed? Any challenges or anything which you can say that, hey, these
Mhm.
are real life examples. I have it, which is I've seen some challenges in an organization.
Yeah. I think there are multiple challenges, some of which have to do with the people because it takes a different mindset. People are used to doing things a certain way. And now you're really asking them to do things very differently. So it's really about changing behaviors, changing mindset. Just as an example, we do market research and you ask physicians questions about how they practice. We used to get an answer. Anytime we actually physically looked at their medical records, we saw that what they said didn't always match what they were doing. So market research gave an answer, but it wasn't always completely consistent with the actual practice of that physician. Now we can look at the actual practice through these AI tools. So I think just shifting to how we collect data, that is important. There's the need for upskilling. There's a lot of additional skills required if you're going to do this. I mentioned the need to really have good analytical skills, the need to design these studies with these new tools in mind so that we can collect robust data. Of course, whenever we're using AI, we also have to be careful that some of these engines, you could have this information go somewhere else. So we're trying to build these tools within our company firewall, which has challenges of its own. But I think these are all being overcome. AI algorithms now, some of them have been validated. They're highly accurate. So that used to be a challenge too. How accurate is this extraction of unstructured data? But now that can be done very predictably and fairly robustly. So I think the challenges are being overcome. And I find the new generation that is coming, they come with a lot more skill in this area than some of the people we have who have been with the company a long time, because these are tools that people are using now in their daily lives. I suspect as we go on, it's going to get easier and easier because the people we hire will be very knowledgeable about some of these new tools.
Absolutely. And I think one of the key trends we have seen in real time competitive intelligence or market monitoring tools, right? With
Mhm.
AI.
Mhm. Yes.
It's amazing to see how you can track competitive activities or market trends or regulatory developments. And large companies have used the public sources like Twitter's, the Facebooks, the YouTube.
Mhm.
Uh, all these sources can be helpful for continuously monitoring these pipelines and launches and understand the market share dynamics changes. And maybe you need
Exactly.
to readjust the pricing strategies and whatnot. Have you
Yes.
seen those
And
kind of things as well?
definitely, I think in terms of doing this type of scanning, it's gotten much easier and takes much less resource than it used to.
Yeah.
And I'm sure many people do this every morning, having a tool set up so that if there is news on one of our products, it shows up in your morning feed. Rather than having to go and find this information, you can get a nice summary. And we don't even sort of fully appreciate just how powerful that is and how relatively recent it is that we can get this type of analysis done on what's going on in the news media, in social media, and then increasingly with these AI tools, what's happening in actual health systems. A great example is when we use administrative health databases,
Mhm.
we used to look at data that is 12 to 18 months old. And it would take another year to actually collect it, analyze it. So you're looking at what's happened 2 years ago. Now we can really start looking at what's happening now.
No. Exactly.
And those insights are really valuable. And I think as these tools get more sophisticated, it is going to be very much looking at the health system in real time, which is amazing. I think that'll open up a lot of potential for how we do evidence generation, how we do market research, how we monitor for efficacy, safety. I think there's a lot of potential there with these new tools.
Absolutely, I agree with you 100%. As the industry evolves, these emerging trends or innovations, do you believe that will redefine the entire medical affairs in the next 5 years? And what's your perspective on that?
Yeah, I think if you look at these trends over time, medical affairs is becoming more and more important. I think that will continue. It's because the studies we do, the data we generate, are becoming more and more complex, and there's need to be able to translate that complexity into something that is actually meaningful to the physician, to our stakeholders. And that is what medical affairs does. We're like a bridge. We get the data from clinical development.
Mhm.
We basically make it into form that it can be communicated really clearly. But we're also getting the tools now to make that communication more powerful. It's not just about the MSL going and answering questions. It's about our omni-channel strategies, which are every bit as complex as what the commercial colleagues do with omni-channel. It's all very integrated. We're creating hubs where if a physician has a question, they can come to our portal and look at content directly. In the past, it was hard because we, of course, can't open up all the data to them. But now with these new models, the search has gotten better. So they can ask a specific question and they will get that content. Whereas before, we had to make sure the right keywords were there, and people would get frustrated because they didn't enter the right keyword and they wouldn't get the answer. But
Correct.
now we actually have a much better ability to search precisely for what we need because these language models are so good. And you can create chatbots. So it just gets it easier for clinicians to get the information they need from us. So I think that will continue. And it will also open up the possibility of truly personalized
Yeah.
communication rather than creating same content for everybody. You can almost individualize the content. And that's what these new AI tools do. You put in a search, they give you very specific content based on the question you've asked. And just imagine that's what we can do for the physicians we work with as well. I think that's what I see as the future.
So, Jill, thank you so much for participating and giving your perspective on how companies are redefining their, I would say, digital strategies, AI strategies, and helping medical affairs. So, thank you so much and learn how your organization can partner with Avira Digital in end-to-end integrated evidence planning, strategy, and measuring the impact of evidences via analytics, AI, and digital services. So thank you so much for your time and look forward for more perspective in the next podcast. Thank you.
Thank you.